Okay, girls. So today we will discuss about the biodiversity, that is conservation of biodiversity, that is in situ conservation. Okay. So biodiversity means anyone? Girls. So bio means living, diversity means variation. Okay. So different kinds of life which are found on one area, it is called as a biodiversity. Bio means living organisms. So here the bio living organisms means all types of plants, animals, microorganisms will come under by living organisms. Okay. So biodiversity is all different kinds of life you will find in one area, that is the variety of animals, plants, fungi, and also even microorganisms like bacteria and all small organisms, also small microorganisms, all will come under this living organism. So that make up our natural world. So each of these species and organisms work together in ecosystem. So without any these organisms, the ecosystem will not function properly. So if the bacteria, that is microorganisms, are not there in the nature, so what will happen? So here the degradation, that is here the main function of microorganisms is they decompose the dead organic matter and also the all other complex matter into simple forms. If the microorganisms are not there, so it will not, the ecosystem will not function properly. So for this purpose, so all organisms will be, they will present in a equal manner. Okay. So here they, in the absence of these organisms, the ecosystem will not function properly. Any of these organisms like animals, any animal, plant, and fungi, and even microorganisms. So each of these species and organisms work together in an ecosystem like on an intricate web. So that is a network like structure to maintain balance and also the support the life. So the biodiversity mainly supports everything in nature that we need to survive. So the main, that is the importance of biodiversity, it gives food, clean water, medicines, shelter. So all we get from this living organisms only. So the biodiversity will support everything in nature, that is food, cloth, and shelter. So here, so why we conserve the biodiversity? So because due to increasing population, what will happen? So the resources will be decreasing. So due to increasing population of the human beings, so here the resources, as the utilization of resources increases, the resources will be, and the living organisms will be decreasing day by day. For this purpose, so we should conserve the biodiversity. So there are two types of biodiversity. Girls, is it clear?
No, ma'am.
Any doubts? So introduction about the biodiversity. So already you know that this biodiversity. Yes or no? Girls.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here so today mainly we concentrate on this in situ conservation. Okay, so here the two strategies are there, that is conservation of biodiversity. Here there are two basic strategies for biodiversity conservation. So here two types, they are classified into two types, that is in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. So first one is
The screen is not visible clearly.
clean screen is not visible. 1 minute.
Zoom చేయండి ma'am.
Now is it okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Now is it okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so in situ conservation means that is the conservation of the ecosystem and natural habitats and the maintenance and the recovery of viable population, that is living populations of the species in their natural surroundings. So here we are considering the that is living organism, that is anything, plants and animals in their natural habitats only. So it is called as the in situ conservation. And in case of domesticates or cultivated species in their surroundings where they have developed their distinctive properties. So the plants, for example, some plants can grow in particular area, particular soil. So we are cultivating in that place only. So here we are conserving the organisms or plants, mainly plants and animals. So in their natural habitats only, their natural habitat. So it is called as the in situ conservation. In situ conservation, that is the term in situ conservation denotes conservation of species in its natural habitat. So generally, for example, plants mainly grows in which areas? Plants mainly ekkada untai? Generally, girls. So plants mainly grows in ekkada area lo ekku untai plants. Forest, okay? Plants grow in ekkada untai main ga forest lo, okay? So animals mainly present in animals also present in forest and also zoos. So here they are growing in their natural habitats only. So the term in situ means it denotes the conservation of species in its natural habitat. So that is where the species is normally found. It is called as the in situ conservation. So the in situ conservation strategies mainly stress on the protection of total ecosystem through a network of protected areas. So here these natural habitats where they grow, they can be protecting here. That's it here. Okay. So mainly these areas are concentrating and they are protecting. So they are through a net protected areas. So the protected areas means to facilitate the growth and reproduction of plants and animals in their habitats. That is, the area is protected by restricting the human activities like hunting, firewood collection, timber harvesting, etc. So here they are here in these protected areas. So these activities will not be allowed in these protected areas like hunting, firewood collection, that is for collecting the wood, and timber harvesting. So these activities will not allow in these protected areas. So today there are about 37,000 protected areas are there, and parks, sanctuaries and biosphere reserves all around the world. So examples for in situ conservation are here nature, parks also comes under the in situ conservation, sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. So all this comes under in situ conservation. Okay, so here in situ conservation, so here they are conserving these plants and animals in their natural habitats. So India has over, girls, is it visible screen? Change out
Yes,
the
ma'am.
screen. Okay, so India has over 600 protected areas, so which include 90 national parks, over 500 animal sanctuaries and 15 biosphere reserves. So the protected areas contains maximum biological diversity. So in these areas, so the maximum high level of biological diversity will be seen. So first one is national parks. So in situ conservation, first one is a national park. So it is a protected area, so which is strictly reserved for the conservation or betterment of the wildlife, and where activities like forestry, grazing and cultivation are not permitted. So these, so it is also, so all these comes under the protected area, that is national parks, biosphere reserves. So these all are comes under the protected area. So protected area means that the area will be protected, and here the other activities will not allow in that particular area. So here in national parks, it is also a protected area, so which is strictly reserved for the conservation and betterment of the wildlife, mainly wildlife, and where activities like forestry, grazing and cultivation are not permitted, and their boundaries are well marked and circumscribed. So they are, and so it is bounded. So in this area, not any activities are not allowed. So they are usually small reserves spreading in an area of 100 square kilometers to 500 square kilometers. So here generally this the area of these national parks from the 500 to 500 square kilometers. It may ranges also. So in national parks, the emphasis is on the preservation of single plant or animal species. So here mainly they mainly concentrate in particular species. That is, for example, in some example, for example, this Kaziranga National Park. So here mainly, so one particular animals are mainly concentrated. So Gir National Park. So any idea on this, girls? Kaziranga National Parks mainly concentrated on
Yes, ma'am.
which animals?
Tiger.
So
Tigers.
tigers. Okay, correct. Next, Gir National Park. Gir
Lion.
Okay. So Gir National Park. Okay, next Kanha National. So in this areas mainly, so a particular single plant or animal species mainly concentrating and mainly preserving that particular. Girls, mute yourself. Okay, so in this area, so one particular species mainly concentrating and preserving that particular species, and their increasing number will be increasing in this that area by preserving. Okay, so next one is, first one is a national park, second one is a wildlife sanctuary. So it is a protected area, so which is reserved for the conservation of only animals. And so this wildlife only, so that is animals, mainly concentrating on conserving mainly animals. And human activities like harvesting of timber, collection of minor forest products are not allowed. Okay, collection of minor forest products are allowed to be certain extent. So here some extent. So here this collection, harvesting of timber and collection of minor forest products, like for example some medicines which are obtained from these plants. So like that, some small products can be allowed to collect here. Okay, so boundaries of sanctuaries are not well defined and controlled biotic interference is permitted. Example, tourist activities. So here in these wildlife sanctuaries, so tourist activity is allowed. So examples for wildlife sanctuaries are Annamalai Wildlife Sanctuary, which is located in Tamil Nadu, and Birmoti Bagh Wildlife Sanctuary in Punjab, and Chilka Lake Bird Sanctuary in Orissa, and Jaldapara Sanctuary in West Bengal. So these are some of the examples for wildlife sanctuaries, so which are located in different states. Okay, so here some extent the tourist activity will be allowed, and also here the collection of so some activities like collection, harvesting of timber and collection of minor forest products also allowed at certain extent only. Okay, without harm to these animals mainly. So next one is the biosphere reserve. So first one is, so in situ conservation, that is the conservation of animals and plants in natural habitat. So first one is the national parks. Second one is wildlife sanctuaries. Good. Next, third one is a biosphere reserve. So it is a special category of protected area where human population also forms a part of the system. So they are large protected area of usually 5,000 square kilometers. So here the biosphere reserve has 3 parts. So it is again classified into 3 parts, that is core, buffer and transition zone. So core means it is the innermost zone. So it is undisturbed and legally protected area. Buffer zone means it is present between the core and transition zone, and some research and educational activities are permitted in buffer zone. And third one is the transition zone. So it is the outermost part of the biosphere reserve. So here cropping, forestry, recreation, fishery and other activities are allowed. So this one is the biosphere reserve. So it is mainly at 5,000 square kilometers. Okay. So the central one is the core region. So this is the buffer zone. And this one is the transition zone. So in core area, so here there is no activities, not allowed. So here is a completely protected area here. Core zone is innermost zone, and this is undisturbed and legally protected area. Okay, so buffer zone. So here some research and educational activities are permitted in buffer zone. Third one is the transition zone. So here the in this area cropping, forestry, recreation, fishery and other activities are allowed. So this is about the biosphere reserve. So it is classified into 3 zones. So this central one is the core, this one is the buffer, and this one is the transition area. So here all activities, some activities will be allowed. Here also some activities like research and educational purpose activities, but it is a completely protected area. Okay, so here in transition zone, that is human settlement is also seen, and tourism and recreation is also seen here. And here education and training in this buffer zone, and also this one human settlement are also seen in buffer zone. Okay, so in May only this is a controlled area, that is monitoring, so it is protected. So here strictly allowed, so now any activities are not allowed in this. It is a completely protected area, core zone, core area. Okay, so the main functions of the biosphere reserves are, first one is the conservation, that is to ensure the conservation of ecosystem, species and genetic resources, and development, that is to promote economic development while maintaining cultural, social and ecological identity, and scientific research, to provide support for research related to the monitoring, education, local, national and global issues. So in biosphere reserves, so these main functions, so the activities which are taken place in this biosphere reserve are first conservation, and also developmental activities, and also the scientific research. So some biosphere examples for some biosphere reserves of India are Nilgiri, that is Kerala, Karnataka. So these three areas, three states, Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Nanda Devi in UP, Sundarbans in Rajasthan and Manas in MP, Gulf of Mannar in Assam. So, these biosphere reserves are when we compare, so it occupies the large areas, that is 5,000 square kilometers. So these are the large areas. So next one is overview of this biosphere in situ conservation. So biodiversity conservation, first in situ conservation. So it is an on-site conservation of the genetic resources in natural populations. Girls, is it clear, this picture? Otherwise, I will show other one. Okay, so I will continue this picture later. So next one is the in situ conservation. So in situ conservation is the on-site conservation of genetic resources. So in India, ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions are legally protected as biosphere reserves, national parks, sanctuaries and reserved forest, and protected forest and nature reserves. So in India, 18 biosphere reserves are there, and 104 national parks and 500 wildlife sanctuaries are there. Here plantation, cultivation, grazing, felling trees, hunting and poaching are prohibited in biosphere reserves, national parks and sanctuaries. So protected area network in India. So mainly we are concentrating in India. So National Board for Wildlife, chaired by the Prime Minister of India, provides for policy framework for wildlife conservation in country. So mainly these all are in the hands of Prime Minister only. The National Wildlife Action Plan, that is 2002 to 16, was adopted in 2002, emphasizing on the people's participation and their support for wildlife conservation. So it is not only the people who are working in these areas, not only like that, but all should support, and also awareness on all the people, awareness about this conservation of wildlife conservation, and all should support, not only the people who are present there are working in these areas. So this is our duty. So next one is a reserved and protected forest. So as present, reserved forest and protected forest differ in one important way. So here what is the difference between reserved forest and protected forest? So rights to all activities like hunting, grazing, etc. in reserved forest are banned. So in reserved forest, these activities like hunting and grazing are banned, whereas in protected forests, so in protected areas, rights to activities like hunting, grazing are sometimes given to communities living on that fringes of the forest. So in protected areas, so the people who are present in that area, they have the right to hunting and grazing. But in reserved forests, so these activities are not allowed, like hunting and grazing. So here also some extent only the people who are living in that area have the right to hunting and grazing, sometimes given to communities living in the fringes of the forest who sustain their livelihood from the forest resources or products, that is for what you call them. So for they are called as so the people who are living in the forest only, so they are only dependent on these forest products, so they are allowed to like take grazing and all other activities will be allowed for them. Okay, the first reserve forest in India was Satpura National Park in Madhya Pradesh. And typically reserved forests are often upgraded to the status of wildlife sanctuaries. So which in turn may be upgraded. So first this what you call, so reserved forest, so after some time, so by upgrading, so they have the status of wildlife sanctuaries, so which in turn may be upgraded to the status of national parks, and with each category receiving the higher degree of protection and government funding. So this is the how they will come. So first one is, so here the national parks are high level when compared to wildlife sanctuaries. So wildlife sanctuaries when compared to reserved, so this one is reserved. So first protected a forest, they are converted into reserved forest. Next they are converted into wildlife sanctuaries, and finally national parks. So this is the high degree, high level when compared to protected forest. Girls, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next one is wildlife sanctuaries. So these are wildlife sanctuaries. So they are also known as the wildlife refuges, because here only the plants, animals mainly. Wildlife means animals are the home to various endangered species of animals. So they are safe from hunting, predation, or competition. So they are safeguarded from extinction in their natural habitat. So certain rights of people living inside the sanctuaries could be permitted. So here also some activities. So only the people who are living in this wildlife sanctuaries are allowed to do some. So they have some right. So there are more than 500 wildlife sanctuaries in India. So national parks, they are the areas reserved for wildlife. So we already discussed about these parks. Okay, so national parks are the areas reserved for wildlife where they can freely use the habitats and natural resources. And the difference between sanctuary and national park mainly lies in the vesting of rights of people living inside. So unlike sanctuary, where certain rights can be allowed in national park, so no rights are allowed. So no grazing of any livestock shall also be permitted inside a national park. While in sanctuary, the chief wildlife warden may regulate and control and prohibit. Okay, so this is about in situ conservation. So in next class we will discuss about ex situ conservation. Okay, okay girls, any doubts? So I will show one picture. It is mm, 1 minute. It's not there. Right? Mm, 1 minute. One minute, girls. Okay, otherwise I will show this only. Okay. Okay. So girls, is it visible? The screen?
Not clearly.
Clearly. Now?
No.
No? No. So just I want to show this picture, but it is not clear here. Okay. 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 So this one. So in situ conservation. So it is on-site conservation of genetic resources in natural population. So examples: biosphere, reserves, national parks, sanctuaries, reserved forest, protected forest, and natural reserves. So reserved. So mainly I want to, so biosphere reserve. So here this one is a biosphere reserve. So it is again classified into three, that is core, buffer, and transition zone.
Transition.
Okay, so here in core region, human activity is not allowed, whereas in buffer region, so use it for scientific research, monitoring, training, and education. So ecologically sustainable human settlement and also economic activities, that is tourism, is also permitted in transition zone, whereas in buffer zone only use it for scientific research and monitoring and training and education in buffer region. So another term is there, that is eco-sensitive zones. So the land falling within 10 kilometers of the boundary of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So it is called as the eco-sensitive zones. These are called as the eco-sensitive, that is the area around these parks and wildlife sanctuaries, 10 kilometers of the boundaries of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So they are called as the eco-sensitive zones. So declared under the Environmental Protection Act 1986. So the protected areas are based on the core and buffer model of the management. So the core area has the legal status of being a national park. So the buffer areas does not have the legal status of being a national park and could be a reserved forest, wildlife sanctuary, or tiger reserve. So this one only I want to tell you. Okay. Girls, is it clear? Any doubts? I will share this PPT with sir. Okay, sir will share with you.
No
Any doubts?
madam.
Okay. Okay, girls. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, madam.
Okay.
Thank you, madam.
Okay. So tomorrow no class, and Monday we will take class. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Bye.